Good afternoon. Thanks for having me up here. This is my first time in Columbia, South Carolina. I've been through here, but never stayed any amount of time. And I want to let you know how this presentation came about. My tenure with the Florida Department of Transportation, I was in two different districts, in Orlando area and in North Florida, with a lot of asphalt contractors. Spent my whole career in the materials office at the DOT, specifically with asphalt. So I had the opportunity to see a lot of asphalt production, a lot of asphalt paving, and a lot of problems, because when I came in to the FDOT, they were transitioning away from Marshall mix design into super pave mix. At the same time, getting away from that spec that beat you over the head with a 2x4, and then more of a rewarding type spec, percent within limits. If you do things continuously, then you can get a bonus. And I think you have a bonus. I think Josh was telling me you have a bonus system here in South Carolina, which is good. It gives incentive. And so there was quite a few contractors that took advantage of that and upped their game into maintaining their asphalt plants, doing things right, more of a quality control, trying to make a good asphalt. Because if you make it and you make it right and you do it consistently, you get a bonus. And so if you're getting 5% over your bid price, that's always a good thing. So we named it 7 Habits of Highly Effective Producers, and I'm going to do one next that's highly effective pavers for the next session, but we stole that from Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I guess he hasn't figured it out yet because we haven't had any cease and desist letters from him. So he's got about 25 million copies in print, so I don't think he really cares. But so we put this together by observing, not really by doing, but by observing. And then we implemented this stuff. When I left the department, I came to work for ATS, and we did it through Duval Asphalt and implemented these things. And it really works, so hope you get something out of it. So here's a list of the 7 habits we're going to go over, and we'll read them as we do it. We got any plant guys in here? Got a plant guy, got QC guys, got a bunch of QC guys. Great. So know your stockpiles. So between transportation from the quarry to the plant, then delivery to the stockpiles, the material has many chances to adjust or get contaminated. If you know anything about a quarry, you know anything about transportation of aggregate, I know you know it when it gets to the plant. It's a miracle that you get what you get. The difference is at the quarry, you got a band width of like this that you can produce this aggregate on, and then they put it on a train or put it on a boat or put it in a truck and bring it to the asphalt plant or to a terminal, and then they mess with it there, and then we mess with it at the plant, we stack it, and now we have this band that the DOTs want us to produce our mix in like this with that aggregate gradation. So a very important part of effective producers is knowing those stockpiles and knowing those gradations that are in there. So best practice always says check the gradations of the material when it's incoming to your plant every 1,000 to 5,000 tons. We recommend every 1,000 tons, or we do every 1,000 tons. And if things are critical, like we went through logistics issues back after COVID and we were getting hand-to-mouth aggregate, then we tested it on a daily basis as it was coming in because you didn't know what you were getting. So just depending on the circumstances is when you want to actually pay attention to these gradations. But it's real important. It's a major part of it. And this has to work with the plant side as well as the QC side. Of course, the QC is going to be doing the testing, but the plant has to recognize when this aggregate's coming in and knowing that it's coming in and get those tests done. This seems kind of crude, but this is the whiteboard in my lab. And actually, when the aggregate's delivered, we run our tests. We tried to get a minimum of 10 tests, get a 10 average, and get our sieve for the size of the stone we're bringing in. And we have notches in our stockpiles, and that's those little dotted lines in them with dates and then the gradation of the target sieve that we're looking for. So as we pay attention to our stockpiles and we're producing, and we get back to that part of the stockpile, we know that we might have a change coming up because we might have a different target or a different gradation on that target sieve. So that's why we put this up there and we keep up with it. Dry erase board, it's easy to do. We always use a first in, first out method. I know this is kind of hard because let me go back a slide or 2 slides. So if you can picture our plant here, out in front of us is US 1, and our trucks are coming in the front and it's delivered. So naturally they're going to put the aggregate on the front of those piles. Then the loader driver is going to dig it from the front of those piles and put it right in the bin. So last in, first out, it seems like at our plant. But we try to really make the trucks go around back and take a cell at a time where those notches were and use first in, first out. That way you know what those gradations are. We separate them into cells like I was talking about, and you can do it left, right, front, center, whatever. And then as you run out, as you get that cell, then start recharging that cell. Leave a little gap in there so then you have time to get your QC test, get at least your 10 samples so you can target that controlling sieve that you're looking for. Keeping it separate's the key before you stack it up and pull it up and all that. We use blend sheets to adjust our mixes all the time. It's never a call from me or from one of my technicians that, hey, let's take 2 off of the 7s and put 2 on the screenings. We always take our gradations that we have. Now, this is an Excel spreadsheet, and we've doctored it up, so there's a setup, like 3rd line down, it says setup, and those are percentages of the mix design. When we designed it in the lab, those are percentages of the rock that we use. And then over there to the right, third one in is a JMF. That's your job mix formula. Then above, we can change those percentages up top, put in new gradations that we have in our stockpiles, and it'll give us a new JMF and tell us how far we're deviating from that JMF, but then it knows what we're going to look at. Then you can go back, adjust those percentages, and match it up to your JMF, if you're lucky. If you get some rock that's really off, you might have a hard time doing that. You do have specifications. We do in Florida, I don't know if you have them here, of how far you can move those percentages away from the mix design. I think you can move it further on the coarse rock, but less as you get down to your finer stone and sand. We always document these, so we do this, we date it, take it out, 3-hole punch it, put it in a book, so we always have our changes. So that way we can go back and look and see if, how much we're adjusting a mix, whether we need to get rid of it, keep it, or figure something out, something's going on with the plant. So let's talk a little bit about the plant, keeping it calibrated. Effective producers check calibrations every 2 to 4 weeks. Check them, not change them, just check them. Changing is a lot more involved. But if you have a day paving that it might be a little slow, you might have a 3-hour gap, trucks are going a long way, it's taking a long time to go and come back, you have an opportunity to check a calibration. It might be just one bend. Pull a truck underneath the belt, check the calibration for that one bend. It's your most popular. You know what you're running. You know if you're using 3/8 stone heavy this week, just check it. Check it at a low ton per hour and a high ton per hour, and check that calibration. It's very important. With that, checking those calibrations, when we can be proactive. Machines wear out, problems develop. It's just true. It happens all the time. Well, not all the time, hopefully, but it happens. But we're trying to be, what I like to say is fire marshals instead of firemen. It seems like in the asphalt industry, we're putting out fires all the time. And we want to be proactive and try to be a fire marshal so we don't have to stress ourselves out going through any of that stuff. If you do find a problem with your calibration, notify the QC department, because you may have been going along and adjusting that mix, trying to trick it to what the plant's giving you. I call it voodoo asphalt, making some voodoo asphalt, and now the plant recalibrates, the plant folks recalibrate the plant, And next time I run it, it's going to be somewhere else. So let them know, so then we can take a belt cut of the rock or whatever and see what our gradations are giving us. Communication is the key. Talked a little bit about this last night, I think. Producing long runs. Don't bounce between mixes rapidly. So drum plants are not designed to make short runs, switching between different materials. They take time to level out between mixes. So you may want to stagger your start times. Everyone gets a trucking schedule every day. If you're making 2 or 3 mixes, you want to start one mix, get those trucks out of your yard, go to the next mix, get those trucks out of your yard, and so on and so forth. Perfect example, a few weeks back, during the middle of the day, we were making 3 mixes at the plant on the north side there, Lance, and had a plant issue. All the trucks came back. We had no mix, got the plant going, and now we got to get those trucks all back out. Well, the plant operator decided to make 2.5 loads of the 9.5, 2.5 loads of the 12.5 40% wrap, and 2.5 loads of the polymer, which is going to a DOT job. Kept going back and forth, back and forth. Well, the DOT, they sample randomly for our pay. Lo and behold, that sample came on one of those switchover loads. Switching over, boom, air voids fail, 1.5, just terrible, terrible gradation. So instead of the DOT just looking at that one sample or that one situation, they don't know, they weren't there. They have an inspector there, but he's not up in the tower. You know, they think we're telling them anything. Nope, we have to go back and we have to evaluate. They have in question 600 tons of mix. So we have to go evaluate it. You know, it's just not something simple. Okay, you guys, you got caught on a switchover, just go remove that and you're fine. No, we got to go evaluate it all. It's very expensive. I don't think the rest of it's going to come out. I think we made good mix up until that point. But after that, yeah, there's probably some bad mix. Something's coming out, but it's going to cost us 10, 15 grand to go do an engineering analysis to test all that other mix in place. So it can get very expensive. Keep that in mind. Try to produce one silo at a time, silo at a time. Fill one silo, then ship out the mix, just like I said. Or another option is just make 100 run ton at a time. So make this one, make 100 tons for this guy or for this crew, get that out the door, make 100 tons for this crew, get that out the door. Then that way, at least you know you got that 4 or 5 ton, truck load window in there to know that your plant's leveled out, your mix is on, or your mix is good. It's all coated with AC, you got the right gradation, all that. Producing steady runs. See this a lot. They get behind. They want to ramp up the tons per hour. So they're clicking along running at 200, 220 ton an hour. They get behind for whatever reason, overtruck the job, whatever it is, and immediately just set the plant at 300 tons an hour. Well, you're going to get some of that voodoo asphalt in between there. If you get caught on a random sample on DOT, guess what? The milling machine's behind the paver instead of in front of the paver, which is what we don't want. So make sure you're running your tons per hour. If we got to go up, that's what they're made to do, is go faster and faster, slower and slower, even going up or down, small increments that we go up, 20, 25 tons an hour. Just increase slowly, let it level out, increase slowly, level out, or decrease slowly and let it level out. The reason why, it can take 20 to 40 minutes for fines to be collected, cleaned off the bags, travel through the fines return equipment, and return to the mix. And the fines are vital for controlling air voids. They're vital to the mix. We love our fines. It kind of acts like AC, helps us fill some voids in there. And I see some mix designers in there shaking their heads. One of my mix designers back there, we had dinner last night. You like those fines too, don't you? Oh yeah, unless they're too much, then they're blowing the air voids. Steady running produces steady mixes. So that plant we started up, we we got it nailed. We're running 240 tons an hour, and we can run that all day long. Everything, the plant's calibrated. We know our stockpiles. We got good mixes. You can make great mix all day long. When we stop and start is when we run into issues. So what about the temperature? Effective producers at the plant, they control their mix temperature plus or minus 10 degrees. Is that possible? I see my plant guy shaking his head, yeah. I've had plant guys tell me you can't do it. There's no way. Well, if you lay a $50 bill up on that console, say if you can control it within 10 or 15 degrees, you get that $50 bill, he'll do it every time. Guarantee you. It can be done, it needs to be done. Temperature is very important out in the field for getting density of our mix. That's the most important part of that mix. When it gets to that paver out there, we got to get density, right? Super pave works at temperature. Trust me. If you got consistent temperature, load to load to load to load, you're going to get consistent density out on the road. You get cold load, hot load, cold load, hot load, your density is going to be all over the place. It's a proven fact. In Florida, our pay, we break down our pays, quality characteristics are 8 sieve, 200 sieve, asphalt content, air voids, and density. Density is 40% of our pay. That's how much they stress in Florida. Our good friends at the Asphalt Institute, they tell us that you can take the worst made mix and get great density on it, and it'll last you 18 to 20 years. And you can take the best made mix, put it out there and not get good density, and it'll tear up in 10. So that's how much it means. And temperature is the number one thing to help you at the plant to getting it out there. A lot of that is the plant operator and loader operator constantly keeping in contact. We don't want any bins to run out, especially if we're making a wrap mix. The wrap runs out, we're in trouble. Let's talk a little bit about loading those trucks. Load in multiple drops. We do 3 at all our plants. I've seen people do 2. I like 3 better, and we do a slot. You know what a slot is? We pull the truck up, we get a drop in the front of the part of the truck, pull it all the way up, a drop in the back it up, and put one right in the middle. So you got 3 humps in there. Helps reduce segregation when we get out to the paver. When we put it in the paver, we know that we've got 3 good drops in there. Chances are that mix is not segregated unless something was happening up in the silo with the batcher or whatnot. But chances are that we load these right, we're going to keep our temperature, we're going to eliminate segregation. I don't know if y'all use live bottom or belly dump trucks up here. You need to play with those a little bit and see the best way to load those to prevent segregation, because they all work a little. Some are V-bottomed and some are square-bottomed, and some hold 24 tons. And so they've recently gotten into that in Florida, West Florida, and in central part of the state. They call the belly dump, where they dump a windrow of asphalt out in the middle of the road, and they come by with the paver and pick it up. And it's pretty neat stuff, but I've seen it and never been involved in it. I saw it when I was with the DOT. So effective producers are going to make calculated mix changes. They're going to wait and look for a trend. Work with your QC team. So we're getting bad results. If we just get one, we got an AC that's kind of weird. We're not just all of a sudden going to add AC to the plant. Or we're not going to take it out. We're going to pull another sample. No knee-jerk reactions, because anything could have happened. It's a big machine. Anything could have happened. So we want to kind of validate that result that we just got. So we don't want to make a rash mix design change. I mean, there's times in the middle of the night and you're trying to protect yourself. If you pull a process control sample and air voids are looking a little high, so we might want to put a 10th of AC in to kind of bring those down as a quick fix. Those are kind of different, but even those, I don't like them. I like to get another sample and see exactly what's going on. If quality's truly driving your operation, then your management is not going to be mad that you slowed production down or slowed the paving down to work through that problem, get another sample, work it out so that we can send a quality mix out there for our pay factor as well as what we're putting out on the road. What we do is important. I hope everybody knows that. I mean, we build roads that everybody drives on, and we ought to tell our folks every day that they're important. I mean, down to the shovel guy at the plant. You just gotta, you can't stress it enough that what we do is very important. They're giving us, they're putting billions of dollars out there for us to build this infrastructure, these roads, and it's a sense of pride when you're driving over them that you had something to do with it. To me, it is. Man, I designed this mixer we're riding on. Or hey, I was working at the plant. I was driving the loader. I was QC in the lab. It's something to be proud of. It's a big deal. That's what we say at our company. Hey, what you do is a big deal, and it is. So mixes that bounce back and forth are indicators of segregation. That's true. So if I get that one gradation that's kind of wacky, and then it goes back totally the opposite way on the other side of where I've been running, I got to pull another sample and it comes back the other way. We might have a problem with our batchers up top getting some segregation. Might have a belt that's hanging halfway off the rollers or something like that, getting segregation. That's what we want to start looking for. So just keep that in mind. And I think that was it. I don't know how far I'm ahead of time. Did I go through that pretty fast? Any questions? Comments? Somebody give me a softball question. Get it rolling. Yes, sir.
Intermediate or base mix. How do you have your QC techs get the mix out of the truck? How many different areas, and how do you go from a field sample to a test sample?
Okay.
Break it down.
So we sample all the asphalt for pay and process control at the plant. Okay? So what we do is we slot load that truck, so we have 3 humps. Flatten them off, dig down 12 inches, and then sample that mix out of there. 3 different spots for 1 bucket. That's 1 sample. Then out of that, we split our 2 GMB pills, get those conditioning, use our splitter, get our extraction gradation, and GMM, and go from there. We never take field samples. Field samples for us is a core, 6-inch core.
I meant field, I meant size of sample. I'm sorry. Break it. Going from
35 pounds. We try to get 35 pounds. That's I think the recommendation in Florida is 35 pounds that we can do. And we end up with a little leftover. We call it a dummy box. Some people call it an oh shit box. I messed something up, so I need a little bit of extra mix. So. Good question. Good question. There was something else I was going to bounce. I guess on the QC side, what we're trying to do constantly is control variables. Because you have variables. You have variables in your material. That's why we do all those gradations, right? And the other 2 most common variables are sampling the mix out of the truck and then testing it. So what we try to do is we try to get everyone sampling the same. I think I got 7 or 8 technicians. We try to train that we sample it the same out of the truck, and then we test it within the Florida test method or AASHTO test method, whatever we're doing. Try to follow that test method, no shortcuts, to take that variable out of it. We can't really do much about the material variability other than just knowing what the variability is and try to trick the mix or try to trick the plant to make that mix. And the other variable is that asphalt plant, and that's where those guys are so valuable, keeping up with their maintenance, keeping up with their calibrations, letting the QC department. I was thinking when I asked that question, if we had any plant people or QC people, I'd get a bunch of hands raised and ask if you liked each other. Because sometimes you don't. You only have to like each other to communicate. You don't have to love each other. Just got to like each other enough to communicate. You're all after the same goal, and what we do is a big deal. Anything else? If I run them out of here early, I'm sorry. All right. Thank you very much.